DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
Welcome to DJNTV and Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe. Now introducing the one and only Ben Stowe.
Yeah, baby! Yeah.
Good evening. Tuesday the night you've been waiting for all week. Well, it's really only 2 days in the week so far, so I guess...
Well, it depends if you've been waiting since last Tuesday.
That's what we're going to go with. You've been waiting since last Tuesday to hear the end of the story. Oh, no. Wait. Part 2 of the story. Oh, no, there wasn't a part 2. I got nothing, man. I just got nothing.
You got a whole week to work on these intros, you know.
I know. I just had to... So before because we talk a little bit before we go live, and Ben, I just the thought came to me. If you would have gotten your butt kicked by Bruce Willis, and then there was the Howie incident, that means that Howie and Bruce Willis would have to meet for the championship.
I think so. Yeah, the difference is Howie kicked my butt for the fun of it. Bruce Willis was going to kick it for money. So
yeah,
I don't know. I mean,
I wonder if that seems equal to me.
Yeah. I mean, Bruce isn't really talking to me, but I should warn him that Howie's on the prowl.
Yeah, that's right. He's ready. He's ready for them and ready for their match.
Yeah. So for those that are wondering what in the world we're talking about, I had a chance. I had a friend who was a stunt coordinator in Hollywood, and I just happened to be the right height and build and dumb enough to be thrown into a piano by Bruce Willis. So he asked me if I wanted the gig. I declined. So, but anyway, I could have been beat up by Bruce Willis. It could have been my claim to fame. Instead, much better being here on the Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe.
Here we go on Tuesday. Yeah, thank you guys for joining us. We got a lot of folks jumping in and chiming in tonight. Tonight, Ben, let's dig into protecting our gear just a little bit. There's a lot of options, a lot of variety, and in
case you throw your gear into a piano.
Yeah, exactly. Looks like my camera is like way leggy tonight.
Yep, your audio's out of sync.
Yeah, I might have to. I'm gonna have to reboot my camera. So Ben, let's kind of start out. Way back in your early days, what was, what kind of gear or cases were you utilizing at that time to protect?
My early days, like the days of the coffee can?
Coffee can, back when they just had off the corners of the rocks so that it could roll, down, that time.
Well, I think I had some really stout cardboard boxes. And then one of the first things I got were plastic totes, just like a hinged lid tote, something just to basically carry things. It didn't offer much protection for the gear, but the gear also wasn't going very far.
And I was thinking about it, and when I set the topic over, is back in the 80s when we started buying some gear and such, even the bands that were playing, they had basically a big plywood box that's one of the sound guys made. And that was it.
Oh, I forgot all about that. That's right. My friend also named Ben, my friend Ben and I, and my friend Damon, we were still in high school. We built this road box, what we imagined is going to look like a rack case when it was done, except it was entirely made out of plywood, and it was 2 feet square, not 19 inches by whatever a rack is. Oh my gosh, I forgot all about this. And we didn't have rack rails, nor any place to get them. And P.S. kids, there once was a time where there was no internet. That's hard to believe, I know.
Yeah, no kidding. Wow. How did you survive?
So
how did you watch Netflix?
Yes, exactly. It was 2 foot square made out of like 3/4 inch plywood, or, I think it was even worse. I think it was OSB, which is a terrible idea, but it was cheaper. And it had shelves. And I lived in a second floor apartment. After I had gotten into my own first place, was a second floor apartment. So, and this thing probably weighed, 300 pounds with OSB, and it was terribly unwieldy and very, oh my gosh, you know what? I know why I forgot all about that now.
Yeah, you're starting to get the twitch back again and the pain.
Spent a lot of years just trying to push that out of my mind. Well, it was good days though, good days. I forgot all about that. Yeah. So that and cardboard boxes.
So you built the first case, but I don't think certainly weren't as many options back then for protecting our gear. I think that a lot of people had to utilize homemade options.
Yeah, we're going back into the early 90s at this point in the story, and certainly road cases and things existed, but there was very few things that were specialized for DJs. Even though the DJ industry had been around, I think, for probably a good 20 years at that point, it was beginning to reach a different level of maturity where things were beginning to be developed specifically for DJs. That would be right around the same time as things like the dual CD player, that sort of thing. Rack mount type gear was coming out. Now, again, this is based on my recollection coming into an industry, so I could be totally wrong. Mm-hmm. But it just seems to me that began to be sort of a coming of age for the DJ industry. And yeah, we were largely using things that, bands had, and they weren't really perfectly suited. Certainly nothing like the controllers and that sort of thing that you see today that are exclusively designed from the ground up for DJs and cases to match, of course.
Yeah, certainly. Some of the early bands that we used to kind of go and hang out with and such as we were, wanting to get into this type of a world. I remember one had a closet on wheels. So basically, it was like the one of these metal closets that you would find, in an office space, what have you, where people would hang their jackets up. They had one of those, and they put some shelves in it. The homemade plywood boxes. I can't think of. It had to have been sometime when I saw my first SKB case that it was the first time I saw one of those the little latches where it went over and then you turn it and it closed.
Oh, butterfly latches, yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't seen one of those until that would have probably been 92, 93, somewhere in that ballpark. Yeah, just something simple because everyone was doing some kind of a homemade job prior to that in the world I was living in here in central Minnesota.
Yeah, it wasn't like you could just go down to the hardware store and get specialized road case hardware. Yeah. So most of what we had was... I think we used the coffee cans longer than we used that box.
Probably.
I think that box was very, very quick to be retired.
Yeah. One of our first boxes we made to handle everything, we made it out of 2x4s and plywood. Because, thinking, this is going to protect it and it's going to be able to take a hit. And oh my gosh, it took two people, one on each end. And
well, that's the other thing. One, not only was the box incredibly heavy, two, it really didn't do that good a job of securing the gear.
Exactly.
So yeah, nothing like we have today, and I've got a few examples we could talk about various.
Well, let's head into some of the technology that has come along that's helping to protect today's gear.
Well, I think there are three ways that I would categorize this. I would say there are carry bags, and some of them are fairly. I don't want to say generic, but like this bag is a speaker stand bag, mm-hmm. and it's got a little bit of padding and a couple of compartments. This one, I guess, is a single compartment, but there are ones that have multiple compartments, and it'll fit just about any speaker stand bag or just about any speaker stand. Excuse me. So, there's different varieties of speaker stand bags, but they're all kind of similar. Here's another sort of generic option. This one is designed to carry lighting. There's a bit more padding here. We're a little bit more concerned about protecting optics and lenses and things on lighting than we are a speaker stand, which is just aluminum tube. But, if we fluff this thing all the way up, now we can see it's a bag that will hold a light, mm-hmm. Or a variety of lights or whatever you want to put in it. Really, there's no rules here. And there are some dividers inside. And then there are bags that get a little bit more specific. And some get very specific down to the model. This is still somewhat generic. This case here being for microphones. So here we can see a wireless receiver, some body packs, and some handheld transmitters. Mm-hmm. I get the
you close.
Stick our stuff in there. And yes, I just keep a wireless mic on my desk. That shouldn't surprise anybody.
Yeah, I was going to say that all this stuff was basically things that were sitting around his desk,
Yeah. So, those would be, I would say, the soft-sided options, certainly good when couple things. One, the gear's not going on tour. The gear's not going, where it's going to be banged around a lot, because obviously the cloth bags don't have quite the level of protection as some of the hard side ones do, which we'll talk about in a minute. And they're also a little bit more pleasant to carry for you. It's just sometimes nicer to carry that soft bag than it is a hard side case if you're carrying it by hand and it's banging into your legs or something as you carry it. Mm-hmm. But there's always a series of trade-offs, of course, right? So the next style of case I will talk about is like a mil-spec type case, a waterproof case. These we see a lot for smaller instrumentation. Love this little case. Mm-hmm. You can see there's a pressure release valve. These are designed to fly. And now we're getting into, would I use a soft bag to protect something in airline transportation? No, mm-hmm. No chance. If you take that bag we looked at a little bit ago with a light in it, you're not going to have a light by the time you get to whatever airport you're going to. You're going to have a bag full of parts.
Sure.
So as we start getting into these mil-spec cases, these they can take incredible abuse. In fact, this case, or at least one of its cousins just like it, I flew with, and I carried a microphone with me to a trade show. So I literally
you used a word. You used a word in there.
Flew.
Yeah.
Flew, yeah.
What's
so
that?
Back like a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, we used to go through magnometers. Except for people who don't have status, they have to go through the backscatter X-rays. But us big timers only have to get X-rayed. We have to get magnometer. We don't have to get X-rayed. And then we would go into these aluminum cylinders and they would pressurize them and then shoot them through the air, and you would end up somewhere else.
Whoa, this sounds science fiction-y to me, man.
No, it sounds like I got some bad mushrooms in my dinner tonight, but it's true. It used to happen. So this case, now, we can see it's a, mil-spec design. And again, it has a pressure release valve, has latches, but this one also has custom cut foam inside. So as you can see, everything inside has a really nice ride.
No, yeah.
So this microphone can go on an airplane and they can do what they can do. And I think every airline has this motto, with apologies to my friend Jeff Christian, by the way. But I think every airline, and Russ Poole, if he's watching, I think every airline has this motto that they're not happy until you're not happy. At least the baggage handlers. Now, neither Russ nor Jeff are baggage people. So, and if you're a baggage handler and you're watching this, I'm not sorry.
Reputation earned. I'm just gonna say it. No.
Bottom line, I think everybody, all joking aside, a lot of friends that work for the airlines, but all joking aside, I think they'll tell you that if you're going to check this thing under a plane, you need to really protect that gear, which is a great segue to the third type of case that I kind of want to talk about. And you mentioned the butterfly latch, and we typically see this type of case as something like this with, corners and extrusions, and we'll call this laminate. I want to talk about laminate some more, because laminate's not all created equal, for sure. Mm-hmm. But we often call these flight cases. And the reality is that a lot of the DJ level cases you buy, Odyssey, Pro X, Magma, that sort of thing, Gator, no disrespect to those companies, because they're trying to appeal to the very low price point. And by the way, DJs, just hear me out, because I was one of you. $300 for a case is dirt cheap, absurdly crazy cheap. I know it doesn't feel like it, but just remind me of that when we come back to talk about tour class cases. Here's the moral of the story. If you're buying a DJ case, I would have reservations about putting my gear in that case on an airplane. Mm-hmm. It is a flight style. It is not a flight case. So sometimes you know, that's not to say that always. I know DJs that do fly with their gear in this. I've seen what can happen to your gear when it flies. So a true flight case, those things tend to be just next world. Some of the cases for some of our touring gear is $1,500 for a case.
Wow.
And yeah, and it's a little crazy. I'm not going to lie, but when you look at the two cases side by side, it's kind of like comparing the General Motors H3 and a military Hummer. You know, one of them will really go through combat, you know, and one of them has to watch out for potholes.
Sure.
Now, listen, am I putting down my friends at Odyssey or Pro X or Mag? No, of course not. Again, I think it's great that they've got a price conscious solution. And to be honest, most DJs are not flying with their gear, certainly not with great regularity. So it is perfect for, you know, putting the stuff in your truck and hauling it to a gig. And I have many Odyssey cases, you know, and I love them. In fact, this is one. But to talk about this laminate, this is almost, I don't want to say like contact paper, but it's a very, very, very thin coating on top of the plywood. And in tour class cases, that laminate is really thick plastic laminate. You know, it's just, everything is just beefier. Now, another plus, if you're a DJ, another plus for Odyssey, Pro X, that sort of thing, they weigh a lot less.
Yeah.
I mean, just, and you've been around some of the touring cases, my gosh, you know, the case itself weighs a ton, you know, and then you put stuff in it.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why there's ramps and wheels.
And forklifts.
Yeah.
We use a lot of forklifts. Anyway, so that was a really quick romp through the various types of cases. Perfectly happy with a mil-spec case flying, particularly if it's got good foam. Use caution when flying with a extruded side case. You know, it just really depends on the contents, that sort of thing, you know.
So let's talk about that foam just a little bit, because there are different types of foam that have been cases. Some is more of a sponge type material I've seen, and some is more of a rigid kind of a plasticky foam. How does that?
These are things that I'm not an expert in. Like, I can't tell you the exact definitions of, you know, this EVA foam versus that foam. There's medium density and that sort of thing. But yeah, there are, and I think the answer is, as we always say, it depends. You know, you don't want it too rigid because it's not absorbing a lot of impact, but you also don't want it too soft. So like the Goldilocks zone's just right.
So when you're getting into touring type for your mixer, as an example, you've got a mixer that's worth at least 30, 40, 50 bucks, something in that ballpark. And you want to have a good case for that one. What kind of foam protection will something like that have compared to my DJ controller that is, you know, meant for more of a budget type application?
Foam isn't always all that different.
Okay.
Excuse me. But there's a combination of different densities of foams in most of the mixing board cases. Some are stiffer and they're designed to hold kind of the structural members of the board in place. And then if you have external monitors or things that are dropping in, those tend to be, you know, with a little bit softer foam, something that's going to absorb more impact and protect those surfaces. You know, faders tend to be kind of left floating, nothing really touching the faders, you know, usually. Excuse me. I swallowed wrong. I apologize. But anyway, it's more about how the case is built, you know, to protect those cases. And the mixing boards usually tend to tip up on wheels and go in and out of the trailer that way. And then they get tipped down flat. And it's basically just to hold that board secure inside the case. But there's different types of shock that we might expect our gear to encounter. And I think perhaps one of the most eye-opening moments I ever saw on tour is when a 218-pound subwoofer, there was a stack of 4 of them going high, and a 218-pound subwoofer unstacked itself in the back of the semi. And and it was strapped down too. We have no idea. Like, it was just one of those things where you go, how did that happen? What did these semi-driver do? So this 218-pound sub unstacked itself and fell on a case down below, and it would have just gone right through like a typical DJ controller case. We just crushed that thing, and it left a pretty nasty scuff on the case, and that was it.
Wow.
And it rode that way for probably 400 miles.
Wow. Yeah. That would, you get there and all of a sudden, no, not only is my mixer all in pieces, and I have a sub that's in need of.
Yeah, and neither of them was other than a scuff, you know. It was nonetheless, we didn't want it to happen again, you know.
So of course we talked bags a little bit. We've talked about the military spec travel cases, and then of course the flight cases. Let's talk about kind of climate control or the ones that will protect from moisture. Where if a person's in a situation where you may have moisture issues in your storage, what would be the best option for that?
Boy, that is a great question.
You're
And
welcome.
I've seen moisture do, and particularly corrosion, I've seen it do some terrible things. I remember a university that was storing communications equipment in a room that was adjacent to their pool.
Ooh, yeah, that would be
It
humidity and
Like
chlorine
a-
in the air.
it looked like a murder scene. I mean, it was terrible. I mean, first clue is when we look. I wonder if I could find these pictures. Excuse me. Let me just see if I can find these pictures. I sure hope I saved them somewhere that's easy to find. Well,
Because that's one of the things that, we have a lot of our viewers and a lot of DJs or entertainers out there who have to store their gear in their trailer. And there can be humidity as the seasons change and temperatures and go up and down. And wondering if there's a case that could help that situation to stabilize the equipment a little bit more.
all right. I did find some pictures, so let me share that real quick, and then I'll answer your question as best as I can.
Mm-hmm.
So that was our first clue that there was going to be a problem in this room.
Yeah.
I mean, right away looking at, now here again, by the way, you can see on this case, you can see that that's more of a plastic laminate, that's a much tougher case. This is a tour class case. This is built for a lot more abuse. So you can see kind of the plastic ridges as opposed to just kind of being a black paper covered wood,
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that right away told us that we probably weren't going to be happy with what we found inside. And there was substantial corrosion.
Oh my goodness.
You can see there corroded right out into there's some of that foam we talked about.
Yeah.
This system here is probably about 35 grand. And it was
Shot.
yeah, I mean, they spent a lot of money repairing it. So, like these cases here, you can basically throw them in the lake. I don't recommend it, but this case is watertight. There's a gasket inside here, and these cases should protect your gear from moisture. However, if moisture is inside, that's not going to help you much. So I think that step one, the case selection is good, but step two is storing things appropriately. I mean, I don't really want to go out and say that any case is going to protect you from a hostile environment. I think it's not a blank check, not a free pass.
Yeah.
But certainly if you're taking your gear on a boat, you're going on a ship, I would probably go for a mil-spec case, because it can go in the water, no problem.
Yeah, and unfortunately, when you're loading up, especially on riverboats, I was with a guy who all of a sudden dropped something in the water. I wonder if that's going to.
Are you serious?
Yeah. He dropped a case. It was a Rubbermaid type case, and I don't remember what he had in it. I think his headphones and a few things like that. It's like, I wonder if that's going to float. Hopefully, there's no holes in it.
Hopefully it stays upright. Well, and that's one of the nice things about these is it doesn't matter which way it goes in the water. And in fact, I use one like this for camping and kayaking, and put various things in there that I really don't want to get wet. And I always test it before I get too far out there, make sure it floats, make sure I haven't loaded it up too much. And, because then you can recover it. And again, I think it could be in the water for days and the stuff inside isn't going to get wet.
And Paul, Paul, you're ahead of me here just a little bit, but he's on the direction. Do you ever put any kind of a moisture pack in there that would keep it dry in a case like that?
So they call those desiccants, I think, if I remember the word correctly. And if I didn't, then
yeah, you did. I was actually waiting, setting you up to go and use that terminology so you could.
Well, it's one of those words that, when I was a kid, it just was one of those words that nobody knew, and it seemed like it was fun to learn. So, desiccant.
Yeah, he said, ooh, he knows that word, whatever that means.
I think those can be a good plan, and that's why manufacturers include them in some of their packaging. That if you're going to have something that's going to be sealed up for a long time, that can certainly help take some of that moisture out of the air. Mm-hmm. I don't know that there's much value in having one, if you're gigging on a regular, every weekend, like we used to.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's a ton of value in that. I think, again, good climate controlled storage is probably better, but I will say this is not an area that is, my supreme expertise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're just having a discussion.
Yeah.
And we get some, they're talking about another desiccant piece there, I believe.
I think most people who watch the show have seen these kind of things, but I guess it's probably worth noting to just talk real quick about rack rails.
Oh, yeah.
Because we talked about that early on. We talked about that with the
homemade,
with the box that we had, that you and I had made. You made one and I made one. That we didn't have rack rails. These are a standard. Every rack rail is 1.75, or every rack unit rather is. So I got my finger right there. We go.
Yep.
So the 3 holes above there represent 1 unit, and that's going to be 1.75 inches, and that's a standard height. And there's a standard width of 19 inches hole to hole. This is actually a half rack, and I chose it because it was going to be a lot easier to use for the show.
Right. Yeah.
I have to hoist it up with one hand and somehow get it on a camera.
Yeah.
But anyway, that I figured we would just talk about that, rack units being a standard.
Some racks I've seen over the years where they have the rack rails in front and they have an additional rack rails in back, but they're not designed the same. What were those for?
Well, I don't know. They should be. Now, there are 2 different kinds of rack rails that I've seen. Well, more than 2. There's also different thread. Standard US, I think, is a 1032, but there's also a European thread. But there are other rack rails that are essentially just punched, and you have to use a threaded nut clip to actually put your screw into them because the rail itself just has a hole. Those rails here, these are threaded. The screw goes right into the rail, and there's no backing needed. I'm not sure why a case would have different rails on the front and rear.
It had the rails, and instead of them being like the one that you're just showing, the holes are forward and backward, both on the front and the back. And those were mounted, the rails were mounted differently. And wasn't sure why they did that on that amp rack. If it was utilized, if there were some amplifiers out there that attached in the back also or something.
Well, they do. They definitely do. Let me see if I could find a picture of, maybe I could find a picture of one of my amp racks because they are definitely secured in the rear. Because again, think about those amps going down the road. The weight, the constant force.
Yeah.
Disappointingly, I may not have a picture of the rear of my amp racks, or if I do, I don't know where it would be quickly. But anyway, there definitely is a rear support as well as four corner support.
So that would have been probably what it was. Is that it was a rear support that I was looking at?
Yeah, but I don't know why the rails would be different because the amps usually have. In the case of my amps, there's a second bracket that attaches. It's an optional bracket. In the case of permanent install, you really wouldn't need it, but in tour, you absolutely need it. And it attaches to the amp, but then it comes out and it looks just like the rails on the front.
No,
so,
yeah, I've not seen that on an amplifier. So, hey.
Oh gosh, I'm see if I can find a picture real quick for you. I will.
So the last thing I wanted to wrap up there, I'll throw this out there so you can think about it whilst you're looking, is casters. Are there different quality of casters? Are there different things to be thinking about or looking at when buying rolling cases?
Oh, you better believe it. Big differences in casters. Yeah, I don't see any great pictures of that. Sorry, but yeah, basically there's a couple different things when it comes to casters. One is the diameter of the caster, bigger, smaller. Bigger casters obviously are gonna roll a little bit smoother over bumps and terrain, that sort of thing. There's different materials the casters are made out of. There are most of the casters we use are a rubber or a plastic or a polyurethane or something like that, as opposed to metal. But there are just plain metal casters. In extreme industrial environments, there are also rubber tires. That I bet I can find a picture of, just for fun. I feel like for sure I can. Yeah, look at this. I'm just on the ball with my photos today, except for the amplifier.
Except for that. Wait.
So this rack here,
yeah,
you can see those are rubber tires.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is this rack is designed for use in football stadiums, and sometimes you have to roll it over some unpredictable, terrain like a football field.
Sure.
In fact, I think I have another picture of it out. There we go. Yeah, so we can just do this real quick. So, you have to roll it out on the field, right? Mm-hmm. So rubber tire is going to work a little bit better. For us, typical is a 4-inch caster. A lot of DJ stuff is a 3-inch caster, and, a rubberized plastic caster. And there are, you can sort of think about it like shopping wheel carts. There are cheap casters and and then there's really good casters that will last a really long time and they'll roll really smooth. And it tends to become one of those get what you pay for situations,
Mm-hmm. Have maintenance of a caster, especially in our neck of the world where we're sometimes rolling through snow, rolling through salt. Do you do anything with those, or is it just one of those things that because of the way the bearings are, we can't clean them or fix them or whatever?
Well, it depends on the caster. If it's a sealed bearing, then you really can't. I mean, certainly you can still try to keep the whole assembly clean. Most of our casters actually have grease zerks on them.
Oh.
So we will clean them and we'll keep them greased because anything that, if you get sand in your bearings don't work very well anymore. Sure. And we carry spare casters with us in our toolbox. Now, granted, most DJs, most of our viewers are going out and they're coming home, they're coming back to home base after every gig. But if you're on the road for, a week or 2 weeks or months, you got to prepare that things are going to fail, and a failed caster is a really bad day. I've seen casters snap on cases. We call them a 3-legged dog, man. Oh, no. So that can be, if that case weighs 400 pounds, that could be kind of miserable
very quickly.
So we carry spare casters to be able to replace a snapped or jammed up caster. We've seen brakes fail. I've seen brakes fail in a way that no longer allows the caster to roll. Mm-hmm. So the brake doesn't break in a way that it's no longer braking. Never mind. Anyway,
well, I've had them where they break, so they always are broke, or they broke, so they always are break. Is that what not breaking?
Yeah. The brakes is broke.
The brakes is broke because they're always breaking. And then there was that time where they didn't break because they ain't broke, or they were broke but they didn't break because they were broke. No, wait.
By the way, I have a couple more pictures that would just be kind of fun.
Yeah. Let's show a couple and we'll wrap things up here. We've had a good discussion about cases and such. And of course, if people have gear and they're like, hey, I want to do something to protect it for the road. This is something that you've seen a lot of these different things, have an idea. They can give you a call and say, hey, Ben, what's going to be the best option?
Exactly. Kind of like that insurance company says,
you're in good hands with Fred and Helen.
Yeah, we've seen some things.
Oh, we've seen some things. I knew that was the one we were going to use.
So this is the head end for an intercom system, and I just happened to be in an intercom photo album, so I found a few. But you know what? It turned out to be kind of gold for this conversation. You can see this dent here.
Yes.
Now, this is a touring grade case. This is a heavier case than most DJs, and you can see how bad this thing got whacked. Now, Obviously, this very expensive gear inside was protected and works just fine. But that gives you an idea of the types of forces this gear can be subjected to. Batter up. Here comes another. Let's see. Let me show you. This college opted for this case to protect their system. And you can see here, there's all the headsets.
Right.
And there are the body packs. Custom foam, right? Everything's good.
Liking it. Yep, looks good.
This system is about 30 grand, mind you. Just put that in your mind.
Okay.
The system the case is protecting is about 30 grand. If you're going to spend 30 grand, spend 31 and get a case. Okay? So that case is about $1,000. See, now DJs, you feel better about your $300 case? All right. So here's a school that said, no, we're not going to. They weren't our customer, by the way. They became our customer because their other dealer allowed them to do things like this, and then their system didn't work. Imagine that. So they became our dealer, and the first thing I did was took a picture. I'm like, whoa, this is photo worthy.
Oh, I didn't realize you had a picture of my case.
Yeah, I wasn't going to out you, but
Yeah, I
so
thought I had seen it earlier, but I guess not.
Let's review. Yeah. Yep. There we go.
There we go. One of these things looks better than the other.
Yeah, goodness. Now let me show you this other picture here, which I think illustrates what can happen. You know, the worst case scenario, so to speak. This is a rack ear for a piece of gear. And this rack was being loaded into an airplane and went off the conveyor belt.
Ooh.
So I don't know how far that fall is, 15 feet?
Yeah, could be.
10, 12, yeah. It landed with enough force that it sheared the metal rack ear off inside the case.
Jeez. That was a good hit.
Yeah. So, you know, when you start thinking about the kind of forces that this gear might be subjected to, I think that's kind of noteworthy, you know? Wonder what else I might have. If I got any other goodies here.
How he said, it looks like the band got into that one case that was a mess.
Man, I'll tell you what, here's some fun cases that just kind of show how this stuff is supposed to look, you know? Let's see. There we go. Nicely protected, right? Yeah. That's the way it should be, you know? So, everything, you know, protect that gear inside.
Yeah, everything with a place.
Well, people learning how to use it.
Yeah. Well, excellent. And once again, gang, if there's something that some of the gear, because there's all of us, we've got some odd pieces of whether it's some lights or something, and there isn't a case from the manufacturer, give Ben a call. There's a lot of options out there for protecting your gear.
One more fun thing. This case, you can see, has a pop-up handle.
Yeah.
And the wheels are actually stored in the lids. So when you take it off, you don't have the extra height of the wheel in the case. Makes the case lower profile in use. In other words, you can have just about anything you want.
A lot of variety out there. That there is. Well, excellent. Thank you guys for being with us tonight, and hopefully you picked something up, an idea or something, and it'll help you protect your gear, or at least keep it drier. We'll go with that.
Well, number one, I'll tell you, just put it in a case of some kind. Dust, dirt, impact. Your gear will be so much nicer for so much longer. I mean, honestly, it's better for us if you don't, because then we can sell you more gear. But
there is that. Yeah.
but seriously, I mean, goodness sakes, just cases. I know you're trying to wrap up, John, but I feel like this is a good thing to put a punctuation point on all of this.
Problem.
TV cases, monitor cases, LCD cases.
Oh yes, yeah.
They often cost more than the TV. And people say, why would I buy a case that costs more than the stuff that goes in it? Well, how many times do you want to replace the thing that's in it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't help it that the case costs more than the TV, but I can tell you that, it's a pretty good way to make sure you still have a TV.
Especially when you get there and you need the TV to function because that's what you sold on your contract. Oh, I'm sorry, the box that, the Walmart box that my TV was in, yeah, it died. Yeah, I don't think they find that very funny. Not funny at all.
Nope. And time is money. You got to go get another TV on short notice. That costs you money.
Yeah.
So anyway.
All the different variables. So, gang, once again, thank you much. We'll be back next week, but of course, Thanksgiving coming up here. Ben, what's the plan for Thanksgiving this year?
Well, it's going to be just the four of us that are still home. My oldest daughter is going to be, doing her thing. We're all kind of hunkering down, just going to enjoy the time together, which, as we've said, we had a lot of it since March, but I think, this will be hopefully the only Thanksgiving of its kind. So we're going to make the most of that. And we do have pumpkin pie ice cream, and we have eggnog ice cream, and we have peppermint stick ice cream. We have the holiday trifecta.
Whoa.
And I think we're going to do something talking about, Thanksgiving, next is Christmas. We're going to try to watch a Christmas movie every night for 25 days. And I know there are some people who probably just hate Christmas and they're tired of the Christmas songs already. And everybody's already ducking because here comes Mariah Carey. Oh no,
Yeah.
But again, I think about all my Christmases past. I think about the years when I used to work retail and how I really became a Grinch. It's hard to and it's my favorite holiday, Christmas is. And then I think about just in recent history,
Mm-hmm.
Christmas tours, last minute Christmas projects, that I'm flying home December 22nd,
Yes. Yeah.
rush, fly home. Hooray for Christmas. I certainly hope that I will not have another year like this year. But I'm not going to waste the year that I have. So if I'm going to be home all of December, well, then, by golly, there's going to be a lot of hot chocolate and candy cane ice cream and movies, whatever. So I guess I'm sort of urging you to find the hidden opportunities, the silver linings, as it were.
Yeah, I like that, hidden opportunities. I think there's a lot of those out there that we're going to be able to experience this holiday season, and it'll be different, but I think we can still find some great moments within that difference.
Yeah, I think about, the Christmas movies, the I'll Be Home for Christmas, and I think about the nights in hotels, counting down the days till I can come home for Christmas. And I think about the lonely feelings there, thinking about the people that are home with their families.
Mm-hmm.
And, if I blow it, it's my fault, because here it is. I've got that opportunity to be with my family the entire month of December. And if I squander that, then next year I have no right to feel sorry for myself whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I think, some people never travel. Some people are home every day, and it's probably easy to take for granted those around you because you see them every day. I'm beginning to experience that myself.
Mm-hmm.
Every day I wake up in the house, every day they're in the house. I feel like, that's different than when I was traveling a lot.
Yeah.
In some ways, maybe I appreciated them more when I was traveling. And that's not to say that I don't appreciate them, but I think everybody can kind of get along with what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying
Mm-hmm.
here? So I think there's a moral to that story, that one, when I'm traveling again, I need to look back and say, I didn't waste this opportunity. But two, for those of you that don't travel, don't waste this opportunity every day. Don't squander that chance to be with the people who really matter in the world.
Yeah, for sure. Excellent advice. Thank you, Ben.
It only took a global pandemic to get me there, but
Well, I'm glad.
Whatever. Never waste a good crisis.
There you go. All these nice models you come up with tonight. Great stuff.
Stick with me, kid. I got a million of them.
Thank you guys for being with us tonight. We'll be back at the top of the hour here in about 15 minutes. Jay and Brian and I, we're going to be talking about money music, basically some of what is going to be the genre or the type of music that's going to be some of the songs that are going to really make your dance floor hit. And we'll talk more about that here in about 15 minutes. Ben, have yourself a wonderful Thanksgiving, and we'll see you again after the big holiday.
Thank you. You too. Happy Thanksgiving to all of our viewers. Thanks for watching.
Bye, everybody.